Hi everyone, it's Clyde at Vibrant Soap, and today's soap is another in the series of soap inspired by famous artists, but in this case it's soap inspired by a whole movement in art called Cubism. And many people don't know that Cubism can be broken down into two movements. One, as you saw in the Cezanne soap, who started the whole idea of looking at subject matter from different angles, and it started to look very cubist in nature, meaning that they look like little cubes, that you're kind of distorting things and looking at it from different angles. Well, people like Braque and Picasso start to really take off on this idea and start to really analyze surfaces from different angles, and they really made it look 3D. Well, that was called Analytical Cubism, but today I'm going into Synthetic Cubism, which is what followed the Analytical Cubism movement. And it's much more colorful. It's not quite as 3D. It's not as dark as the Analytical Cubism was. So of course, Vibrant Soap, I want to do something bright and colorful and not worry too much about the 3D aspect of what I'm preparing. So go ahead and please do more research on this, because it's pretty fascinating how these people were looking at how they painted. So let's get on with the color tutorial and then on with the soap making. Okay, today's color tutorial is a little bit more involved, so I don't want to go so fast that I don't make any sense. So one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is how to increase the amount of different colors in your soap without some of it solidifying before you can do anything with it. So I'm going to start off with my orange, which is going to be a part of this soap. It's really a peachy type of orange. So I've combined it with a little yellow with the watercolors and a little white to make it a little more creamy and a little bit more matte pastel. And then one of the other colors I'm going to be using is a blue, and it's going to be a very slight pastel, and I use pastel lightly because it's not a really light pastel, but I'm adding white to it, so it's going to be a little bit more of a tint of blue, which we call colors that are mixed with white. I probably will make that even lighter. So these are the colors that I'm going to combine in the actual soap batter. So it's almost like in watercolors where I'm combining white with a color because it makes the colors a bit more matte and it makes it more opaque. The other color that I'm going to mix in the actual soap is my activated charcoal, which will make it a black, but I want it more of a charcoal gray. So this is going to be my backdrop, and one of the things I wanted to tell you about the way micas behave as a design element. Mixed with the soap, again, it turns out to be quite matte or opaque, but at the same time I'm adding some mica drizzles to increase the amount of soap colors that I'm working with without having to worry about it saponifying and becoming very hard to work with. It's also going to be a little bit more iridescent because a lot of micas have this iridescent quality that is stronger when it's not mixed with the soap. Some have a great sparkle that carries through when it's mixed with the batter, but if you look back on some of the other soaps I've made, you'll see that some of the colors tend to shine and have a gray shimmer to them, and that just may be the mica drizzles that are layered on top that carry a lot of shine with that. So my soap batter is going to be the top three, but I'm also going to be adding a bluish green mica drizzle, like a turquoise. I just added white not to show that it's been combined with soap, but to get the color of mica that I'm going to be using in that. I tend to mix micas quite a bit to get just the colors that I want. And then I'm going to have just a little bit of purple. but it's going to be a deep purple as a mica drizzle also. And my homework for these inspired by soaps is to look at, in this case, Cubism, and see what colors were really dominating that art. And it's all over the place. There are a lot of different colors, so I just said, let's look at my favorites and let's look at what colors sort of happened most frequently to give you the best overall view of Cubism in just one example. Also going to have some white in here. So already we're up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors, which would be a little bit difficult, not impossible, in the whole soap. So again, we're not just talking about color scheme, but the difference between the effect of a matte or opaque as a background and these colors right here as a mica drizzle placed on top of those gives really a nice contrast to the opaque under painting of soap. So I hope that made some kind of sense. And if this all plays out and the soap turns out like I think it's going to turn out, take a look at the photos at the very end and you'll see how the mica drizzles have a sheen to them and they're laying atop a more opaque use of micas and soap. So let's get on with the soap making. Okay, getting my melted oils and liquid oils, a little bit of a stir, and my kaolin clay is already in there. I'm going to mix that up well before I add the lye solution. And let's add the lye. I'm soaping today at about 80 degrees. And I'm going to add this new fragrance that I got, Jade from Brambleberry. I love this scent. It's such a great, beautiful scent. And I like it for a project like this too because it's not a fruity scent. It's not something that you can detect what it is right away. And so for a soap that I want to be sort of abstract, I don't want anything to distract from that, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, that's all emulsified. Let's get that poured in my colors. So, let's see, here's my white. This is a mix of 2 different blues. And a lot of the synthetic cubist artists really had bold and fairly simple colors. This is my goldy orange. Have a little bit more blue. And then I also have a little bit of black. Let's get some more white and use up the rest of the soap. Okay, let's blend that. I'm not going to blend the white right away because that tends to thicken up. Just getting it off the bottom, and I'm going to stir in the rest of it. Now let me get my white before I do the black. And the black. I'm going to stir these well, starting with the lightest. This fragrance is not supposed to accelerate or rise or anything like that, so that's good if it behaves like that. And I'm going to go back and blend my white just a little bit. Okay, so we're ready to pour. I think I'll start with this orange. I'm going to pour it in 3 places. and some blue. Look at that color. And the white. I'm pouring close to the surface so that all the color doesn't sink down. But I also want the soap to be pretty liquid, so that's a little balancing act there. Go back to the blue. White. I want some white in some other places too. Well, the first thing I'm going to swirl with, I know it sounds unusual, is this ruler, and that's just because I want to move the soap around in broad bands for my first swirl. Turn it a little bit. And I want red as just a small accent here and there. That's about all I want. And then I've got some green mica. Then I'm going to go in and push down some of that with some black mica. I want that to sink in. Go back in with a chopstick and add some line work. And add some purple. I want to add this purple and maybe some of the other drizzles right in the middle of these black masses of soap, because a lot of the cubists, Picasso for example, sort of outlined the color. And so it's really accentuated well with the black around it. Then I'm going to just add some detail. I really love this, the way this purple is looking in there, so luckily I have some more and I can add it to places where I missed. Okay, so the first thing is getting the soap out of the wood slab mold. And I can feel it coming out already. I'm just ping-ponging it back and forth. There we go. It's just really slick, and I do believe it gelled in the mold overnight. So let's see, I think I'll just try to take it out like this. Maybe I will turn it over. This is one of my favorite bars. Really happy with how the base color worked with these. I'll show that to you. So here's the edges, and they're very slick. That's what I like about these dividers. And so there's the orange base. Plays well with mainly blue soap. So humidity, and we are experiencing high humidity right now, does affect soap. That's when we tend to get more ash on our soaps, and it also means that my wood mold expands a little bit because of the moisture and makes it a little more difficult to unmold, but it's not too bad. I like this one too. Each one's a different composition, and I really like that about this type of pour. And these particular micas are mainly from Rustic Essentials and Nurture Soap, but they're beautiful because you can see the iridescence in them. It's not just color, there's a sheen to them that adds a lot of dimension to the design. And the more titanium dioxide that you mix with these, the less there is of that iridescence. It adds a more matte quality to it. But I don't think you want that kind of iridescence everywhere. If it was everywhere, that turquoise mica wouldn't show up as much. So some sheen on a bit of matte is great for design. This is another one of my favorite bars. That purple. I like this one too. I like this one because I don't know if you can see, I'll try to zoom in on this. The blue to the orange is a gradual progression of the blue to the orange. So that gradation is really hard to get intentionally sometimes, but I find in these pours, they tend to happen more. This is one of my favorites too. I guess I have a lot of favorites. So remember that these soaps are basically inspired by. I found that duplicating the cubist style is very difficult to get the line work and the perfect geometrics going in here. So this is inspired by. So remember that inspired by means that, you know, you're not actually copying the style, but you're taking from the color, you're taking from the general design and line work and doing the best you can. So I know all of you have been really good at that, because some people have been able to identify my past soaps just by the approximation of the style that I was going to. So I'm always entertained by the comments that people give, and I thank everybody for that. Thank you for the subscriptions and for following me on Instagram as well. Kind of feel like I know some of you who have been doing that regularly. So we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Bye for now. Who really start to look at soap